What is the difference between a traitor who leaks a company's sensitive information and a whistleblower who's lauded for standing up for justice and exposing information in the public interest? Well, that's a question increasingly on the minds of those in the corporate world, where losing control of the flow of information could mean losing face or worse. Here in the UK, we've seen a prime example of that. The boss of the Co-op Group, which runs a deeply troubled bank, a string of grocery stores and a chain of funeral parlours, has been forced to step down. He's been involved in a high-profile fight over modernisation and has accused unidentified people of trying to undermine him with a series of damaging leaks, particularly with regards to his wage. So how do you keep sensitive corporate matters out of the public eye in the age of free-flowing information, and should you even try? With me now, Chris Roebuck, visiting professor on leadership at Cass Business School. Welcome. Is there a clear distinction between what is simply leaking information with underhand intentions and what is whistleblowing?
Well, its beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That's the problem. And this is an interesting case that gives you an idea of people getting upset and thinking the wrong things are happening. This organisation was a cooperative. It's owned by the customers. It's owned by its staff, and it has been for over 100 years. And they do things in a certain way. And to modernise the organisation, they brought in a chief executive and an executive team from the corporate world that wanted to change elements of that. And therefore, some people within the organisation obviously feel that this new approach, this new sort of ethics is not the right thing. And when anybody thinks that not the right thing is happening, they feel they should be able to whistleblow and stop something that shouldn't be happening from happening.
And there's no authority designed to receive that particular type of information, so they go to the press.
And that's it. If there is an authority that can receive the information and decide whether or not it is genuine whistleblowing, and in that sense, whistleblowing is identifying things that shouldn't be happening, that is to the detriment of the organisation, is against the law, or to the detriment of customers. The problem is that there are many things that could happen in an organisation that leaders might do that people disagree with, but which does not fall into that category. And that is the leadership question, in that if you're a leader, are you getting your message across effectively to your people so that they understand why it's being done?
It's difficult, though, to create a culture of whistleblowing without creating one of leaks. Is that the case?
Yes, because you want people to be able to communicate and see if things are going wrong, that they should talk about it. You know, if we're talking about the nuclear industry, if you see something that's going wrong, you definitely want people to say something's going wrong. But the question is, how does it go through the system? And if they don't feel that they would get a fair hearing in the organisation, they will then go outside.
Do you think it's possible to create a culture within an organisation that distinguishes very well between these two things? I suppose it comes down to loyalty.
It's not only about loyalty, it's about clarity of what we all stand for. An organisation is a big team, and a team should have a common purpose. If everybody agrees with that common purpose and how we're going to get to our end destination, then you shouldn't actually have whistleblowing that is really malicious rumour mongering or whatever. You should only have whistleblowing that is actually, I've seen something genuinely going wrong that does not conform to our behaviour that we have agreed, our values we've agreed, and where we're going. And the problem is, unless leaders communicate those things clearly to everybody in the organisation, and they make sure everybody signs up to go together to that end destination, to that vision, there are going to be problems. And
there will be cases, of course, in which leaking something to the press is against the law in of itself. It depends what the information is.
Absolutely. If customer data protection laws around the world, particularly if it's financial services, but equally we have to have the opportunity for people who see things genuinely going wrong. If the organisation does not deal with that effectively, they must have recourse to be able to go outside. In the final analysis, it's what is a reasonable thing for a reasonable person to do given the situation they're in. And that in certain circumstances could be tested in the courts. But we've seen in UK, within the National Health Service, certain situations where people were actually gagged by their own organisations from speaking out when things were going wrong. And things like that should not happen in any organisation.
Thank you very much indeed.